Okay, this class is okay. So today, Mirza Hashem, we're going to finish Paragraph. Um, okay, so talking about Mashiach, we need to be humble in order for Mashiach to come. And humble is synonymous with Kedusha, because humility is when I'm able to put myself aside and to create space for Hashem. And arrogance pushes Hashem away. Hashem says, okay, you don't want to create space for me, then I'll just leave. But rather, what we're working towards, what our goal is that Hashem should be here in this world. So that's why, especially as we're coming closer and closer to Mashiach, it should be immediately today, at this minute, this concept of humility and holiness is so much is so important. It's a key factor. It makes sense because holiness and bittul come together when I'm able to invite Hashem into my space, to mevatel myself, to put myself aside for Hashem. This is what Mashiach means. This is how we get to Mashiach, by having this bittul, which is synonymous with Kedusha. And the opposite of that, which is this perek of Tanya, is discussing klipa, sitra achra, the other side of holiness. These obstacles and things that are blocking our relationship with Hashem. Okay, so we spoke about this a lot, and we're continuing on this path. And we were speaking about holiness is a healthy relationship with Hashem, face-to-face relationship with Hashem. I don't have to go to the garbage dump to get expired goods, but rather a face-to-face relationship. And then there are people that are wicked and people that are wicked people that are prospering, and they may have a lot of stuff, but they don't have a relationship. And if you don't have a relationship and a connection to Hashem, then you don't have real life. It's not real life. And no money in the world could buy a relationship with Hashem. It's just stuff. And a relationship is so important and crucial to life. And the opposite of a relationship is isolation. Person could have tons of money and 5 homes and 10 cars and whatever, and they still feel so alone. They still feel so isolated, and isolation is deadly. They feel so alone. So you could have a bunch of stuff and no relationship, and it's not real. It's not a real life. So we asked last week, and we're continuing to ask, how is it that these wicked people and things that oppose Hashem and rebel against Hashem, how is it that they exist? And we can understand it more in this generation than previous generations, because in this generation, everything, we have Wi-Fi, we have wireless connections. So it's easier to understand that even if I'm not plugged into the wall, I'm still I still have I could still have I could still be on my phone driving here, even though my phone is not plugged in. So this concept of people that are not plugged into holiness, the fact that they're alive, is obviously that they still must have a divine spark, because if not for that, they wouldn't be able to exist. But yet this spark is very hidden, and we're going to discuss what is the nature of this spark that's keeping these things into existence that are so that are so against Hashem. So we discussed last time, and we said that filters could be a very good thing. A filter on the internet could be a very good thing. Or tzimtzum, you have a big idea that your child can't understand, to break it down into smaller pieces so that younger people or people that are not as smart can understand. So that is actually a good thing, to compress stuff for other people. For example, you have a big file on your computer, that you want to send to someone else, you have to, and so you can't just send it. The file is too big. You have to compress it and then put it in a zip file, and then someone else on the other side could open it. So compressing stuff and like like the concentrate orange juice, right? When you're condensing stuff, it could be a good thing when it's in a healthy way. But if there's too much filtering, then it becomes unhealthy. And that is what's happening. That's what's happening. The chayis that's giving energy to the things that oppose Hashem, the energy that they're getting is too much filtered, is too much is went down too far up into an unhealthy place, and that's what's giving chayis to these things. An example is a refugee. Or what happens? A refugee, he has his country, and he has to run away for whatever reason. Maybe there's a war, maybe there are people after him. He has to run away to a different country. You come to a different country, and now the culture is different, the language is different, how people behave is different. And this refugee has a very high level of discomfort. He's not comfortable in this new surrounding. And he wishes he could go back to where he came from. Now, sometimes he could never go back to where he came from, to his country of origin. And not just a refugee, this spark, not only is it a refugee that it's coming to a place that's completely foreign to it, but rather this spark of Hashem that's found inside this wicked person, or the chazer, or the thing that's forbidden, this spark is not only a refugee, but it becomes a prisoner. What does it mean, a prisoner? It goes into galus. So we galus say exile, but we don't really use exile in a day-to-day speak when we speak regularly. But what the real definition of galus is, like a prison. What's prison? A prison is where a person experiences a severe level of limitation. There's no menu in prison. You can't choose what you want to eat. You can't choose what you want to do. There's absolutely no way for you to express yourself, your talents. Maybe today, a little bit more. But generally speaking, you have no way to express yourself when you're locked up in jail. And what happens is this spark, there's a godly spark in every single thing, and that spark is locked up in jail. It's giving chayis. It is giving life to the wicked person, because if not, the person wouldn't exist. It is giving life, but it's in a state, it's a refugee, it's a prisoner inside the wicked person. And if the life force would not be there, then this person and everything about this person would revert to nothingness. So at this point, we're going to take a couple of minutes and explain this concept of yesh me'ayin, something from nothing. So ayin is something that should not exist. Ayin means there is not. Yesh means there is. Okay. So we're going to give a couple of examples of yesh me'ayin to understand this concept. Okay. If you tell me, yesterday I woke up in the morning, I looked out my window, and my neighbor's driveway was empty. This morning I woke up, and guess what? In my neighbor's driveway, there's a Tesla. Is that yesh me'ayin? The answer is no, that's not yesh me'ayin, something from nothing, because that Tesla existed somewhere else. And it was just moved to this location when you saw it. The Tesla wasn't created from nothing. It was in the parking lot of the car dealership, and now it's moved into your neighbor's driveway. What is it?
Just as a pimple.
So that's a good question. Okay, so that's a very good question. So it wasn't there the day before, right? But let's say a person ate too much chocolate or too much potato chips or whatever it is, it's not yesh me'ayin. It doesn't appear, a pimple doesn't come from nothing. There was too much oil, too much of something, and then the pimple comes. So it doesn't come from nothing. Okay, another example. If you have a canvas, okay, you come into someone's house, you see a beautiful white canvas. Nothing is drawn on it. And then you come back 3 weeks later and you see a beautiful painting of the Kaisel Maravi. Is that Yesh Me'ayin?
Again.
Again, no.
Right.
Why is it not Yesh Me'ayin?
The paints were in the pen, they weren't on the canvas.
The paints were there.
Picture was not there. Picture came from.
But it came from the paint, and the paint came from manufacturer, which was manufactured by Hashem. Again, it's not Yesh Ma'ayin.
Okay.
Yesh Ma'ayin literally means something from absolutely
From absolutely nothing. So the paints existed, the paintbrushes existed, and even the concept of what to draw also existed. The Kaisel Maravi is not nothing. Even what the concept of what to draw also came from somewhere else. And in his mind, the painter had everything planned out, what he wants to paint and which textures and which, style he was gonna use to paint. So that's not Yesh Me'ayin.
Sometimes I feel like when I say something and it came from out of nowhere, that feels like Yesh Ma'ayin to me. Like when Hashem puts some words into your mouth that you can't take credit for.
Okay, then it came from Hashem.
Yeah. But that's
Yeah.
Hashem making Yesh Ma'ayin.
Okay, so something that shouldn't have been and all of a sudden exists,
Right.
that is an example of Yesh Me'ayin. That would be Yesh Me'ayin, or at least relatively Yesh Me'ayin.
Right.
What's an example?
Okay, so what's Yesh Me'ayin? Yesh Me'ayin is the creation of the world.
So since creation of the world, there's no Yesh Me'ayin.
So we're going to give a relative example of what Yesh Me'ayin would look like. But for the true Yesh Me'ayin is the creation of the world. Try to imagine, close your eyes, picture, what do you think was before creation? What do you picture in your mind before creation?
Black, yeah.
Black. But guess what? Black is still a color.
Black is an absence of color.
Black is an
White
absence
is
of
an
color.
absence of
White
color.
is all colors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Darkness is the absence of light. But black, if I take a piece of paper and take a black crayon, right? So what if I color, right? So black is still something. Black is still something. But before creation, there was nothing. There was only Hashem. That's it. Not black, not white, nothing.
But you can't even picture it.
We can't
close
picture
your
it.
eyes and picture it.
Black is a visual experience.
Right.
If I experience black, it's an experience, and that's still a yesh. Before creation, not only didn't anything exist, but there was no concept of anything either. Okay, so we're going to give
Minds can't really grasp what nothing existed means, because we don't only know existence, we don't know the
Right.
lack of existence.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna give a relative example for us. What would Yesh Me'ayin look like for us? Okay, so in South Africa, because there's so much crime, every house is surrounded by a 12-foot wall. So imagine you're living in South Africa and you walk outside of your house and you see a tennis ball on the floor. Now that tennis ball is not yours. You don't have a tennis court. You don't have a kid who's practicing tennis, but your neighbor does have a tennis court. So you know that ball must have come from your neighbor. So what do? You pick up the ball and you throw it over the wall. A person who's passing by, if they're, if they have a little bit of seichel, they realize that the ball didn't just fly on its own from your property, from one house to the other house. They know that there had to have been a person there to put force to make that ball go over the wall, right? So the tennis ball that's sitting on your grass, on its own, it has no potential to move or to fly. It cannot fly. the movement of the tennis ball in an upward motion is, relatively speaking, yesh me'ayin. On its own, it can't do it. But then there's a yesh, there's a person that interferes and gives and puts a force to make this ball move. The potential for it to move did not exist. You insert yourself into the picture and apply a force called throwing, and that causes the ball to go in the direction that it should not have gone in. How long will the ball continue to fly?
So gravity will makes it come down.
Depends on how strong your force is. Depends on how strong you are. When you threw that ball, how much force did you put in? And the second that that force stops, you don't need a new force to make the ball come back down. The second the force that you interfered, the ball should not move. You interfere and put force to throw it. The second that that force is over, stops, the ball immediately goes back to its original state of not being able to fly. This world should not exist. And Hashem comes and interferes and puts a force and recreates the world at every second. If Hashem wanted to destroy the world, he would not need a nuclear bomb. He would just have to stop creating. And the reason why that's such important information is that when we see tragedies or wicked people or all kinds of terrible things, it's not that Hashem sees it. Was Hashem able, people ask, was Hashem able to stop the Holocaust? That's not a question. Although it's hard for us to wrap our brain around it, but no wicked person could exist if Hashem didn't will them to exist. Yes, the power, the divine spark inside of them is very much a prisoner, is very much in galus, does not have a face-to-face relationship with Hashem. The wicked person does not have a face-to-face relationship with Hashem. But it cannot exist if it doesn't have a godly spark. Yes, that godly spark is extremely overwhelmed by the other side of holiness, and it's a prisoner and it can't express itself, but there's no such thing as Hashem couldn't stop this from happening. Because if Hashem, because Hashem is constantly recreating the world from yesh me'ayin, the world should not exist, and Hashem is constantly pumping in energy for every single thing to exist. So if it exists, it's because there's a divine spark to make it exist. That divine spark might be extremely hidden and uncomfortable and locked away and miserable. But it's got to be there in order for the thing to exist.
Every minute Hashem's creating the world, Yishmael.
Yeah.
It was no one-time Yishmael.
No, it's constant. It's constant, which means that if a minute ago I wasn't doing the right thing, next minute it's a brand new world. The next minute it's a brand new world. I have brand new opportunities, and I could be, because every single second the chayis that was there for the world to exist last minute is different. There's a new chayis every minute to make the world exist. Okay. So the bad that exists could only exist if Hashem allows it to exist. And yes, it exists without a personal, meaningful relationship with Hashem, but everything needs a divine battery pack in order to exist. It can't exist without it.
The divine battery pack.
Yeah.
That really explains that.
Okay. So if something is holy, then it's it's truly alive. It's as alive as it could be. And if something is klipa, which means a shell, then it It's completely ignorant. It's clueless of the fact that it had that there is a divine spark in it that's keeping it alive. Like para, like terrorists, like Nazis, they're blind to the fact that there's a divine spark keeping them alive. They have no clue. And this world, after you learn this parak of Tanya, you realize the struggle that we really have, that it's a real, real struggle. This world, the definition of this world, our reality, is a world of klipa. A world of klipa means a world where where there's blockages and veils and filters, all to hide Hashem. That's the world that's what we're living in. And the proof is, just look at the billboards, the politicians, the celebrities. Everything in this world is designed to blur godliness. That's the world that we're living in. A world of Kedusha, that's Gan Eden. Not here. Here, everything is getting in the way. 90% of this world, if we were to give percentages, 90% of this world is klipa. Klipa means things that are getting in the way of between our relationship with Hashem, things that are coming to hide, to block, and to blur godliness. And what happens is everything's designed to blur godliness, and yet we're constantly surprised. Why is there immorality? Why are people so mean to each other? Why is there death? Why are there terrorists? Why is there people dishonest? We're surprised every single time again. But this is the way the world is. We're surprised because we're holy, because we're Yidden. So it doesn't make sense to us. Why this world looks so corrupt? Why this world looks like such a mess? But the reality is that it's not a shock, because all the celebrities and the politicians and everyone else, they're not willing to surrender themselves to Hashem. So therefore, what do you expect to happen?
That's why the world doesn't see the situation in Israel the way it is. And see Hamas.
Right.
So frustrating, I guess.
It's so frustrating because when you're living in a coming from a place of holiness, you're like, what's up? Can't people see the atrocities? And say the Holocaust never happened, October 7th never happened. What's your problem? Why would you want what are you doing?
The original, I can remember my shock, how the world reacted to it. I thought there would be sympathy. No, we deserve it. And they were happy about it.
Wow.
It is shocking. It's for us, it's shocking.
It's shocking for us because we are in touch with holiness.
Yes.
But everything else that's getting their chayis from klipa, they have no clue. They don't even know that what's keeping them alive is godliness. They have no clue. Because the godliness is so engulfed inside of them. Most of the world is self-interested and they're not looking to display godliness. And the experience of our world is Sitra Achra. Our world is getting its highest from the other side of holiness. And most of this world is living on the opposite side of the spiritual tracks. And that's why Avram Avinu,
They're getting their fears from Sitra Achra, but they're getting their fears from their divine spark.
so Sitra Achra, okay, it's a great question. Everything ultimately, everything comes originally from holiness, right? But what happens is when it becomes so filtered and goes down from one level to another level. We described in last class all the filters and the levels and going down and down and down until it becomes unhealthy. For example, this is this is an example. You have a pot of soup, a pot of kosher chicken soup. Okay, then somehow your cleaning lady, she talks a lot. I'm just trying to think how else could not kosher food come to your house. Somehow you have this chicken soup with all the matzo balls bubbling in the pot,
And
and
milk, that's why.
okay, so either so milk splattered in it, but let's make it even worse. Okay, somehow treif got into that chicken pot, that got into that pot. A piece of chazer. I don't know how that's possible, but let's say a piece of chazer got into the chicken soup, and it was not batal b'shishim. It was not 60 times more. Of course, if you have a piece of if you have an actual piece of something that's treif, you have to take it out. You can't have a piece of treif and say, oh, 60 times more. That doesn't work. But for some way, this kosher chicken soup, either you want to say treif or you want to say milk came in, but there's more. See, because the milk was kosher. So I want to make the example even more harsh. But somehow the food in the chicken soup became treif because it wasn't able to overpower the treif. As a matter of fact, the treif overwhelmed and makes the entire chicken soup treif. Okay? Now what happens? This soup that was originally kosher now spills into the next pot. So now the next pot is in question. So this soup that was originally 100% kosher, which became treif, got treif, now if that soup that was originally holy, now could make the next pot treif. But originally it was holy. Originally it was kosher. So the godly spark, originally it was holy and kosher. But what happened is it got overpowered. It got overpowered by the klipa, by the sitra achar, by the negativity, and now
And
it's
Sitra Achar is powered by divine energy, and that's how they're getting their divine energy through the Sitra Achar.
okay. So to explain this even more, we're going to give a whole Kabbalistic concept to explain where sitra achra is coming from or how that even exists. Okay, so I'm trying to hold two thoughts at the same time. Okay, so let's just say like this: the every single thing that exists has to have something godly and holy to keep it existing. Otherwise, it would revert back to ayin. But this spark is overwhelmed, completely overwhelmed and completely sucked. It's swallowed up by the negativity, by the unholiness, and it's stuck in prison, in jail, without any way to express itself inside the wicked person or thing.
Is it like when a parasite or parasites take over a healthy body?
Yeah, yeah. But the parasite originally wasn't a good thing. The parasite was never originally good. Say it again.
I said, it's not wrong to say that they get their energy from the Sitra Achra, but we have to understand that the Sitra Achra gets its energy originally from.
Your Holiness. So we're going to understand how that is in just a second.
Right?
Okay. So we have to understand that Avram Avinu we said this last class, Avram was called Avram HaIvri, Avram the Hebrew. Hebrew is not a translation of Ivri. Ivri means la'avor, to the other side. The rest of the world was on one side, and Avram Avinu is on the other side. Meaning that being Jewish and being holy means that I'm not going to conform to the popular opinion. I'm going to commit myself to godliness. And thank you. And we are living in a world of klipa. And of course, we cannot be satisfied to live in this kind of world. But we have to make a change. But this world is a world of klipa. And what does Hashem do? he parachutes our neshamas down here. We are the special forces who are supposed to turn it all around. And Tanya teaches us how to change the world and not to accept the world the way it is. But we have to know what we're dealing with. That this world is really a very difficult place to be, and not to not to judge ourselves and say, why can't you get your act together? It's a real struggle, even to get out of bed in the morning. Yeah, yay, every little thing that we do, it's a real big deal because we're living in this world where everything around us is trying to stop us from having a relationship with Hashem. That's the world that we live in. That's what's surrounding us 24/7. So to understand this even better, we're going to go even deeper. To understand, okay, so it's a very good question. Okay, we understand that there's a godly spark giving everything chayis. So it has to come from Sitra Achra. Originally it was holy, but it's coming from behind Hashem's back, and it's getting filtered and filtered and filtered until it becomes a prisoner in this thing. But still, to understand even deeper what is going on here, we're gonna go speak about a concept that's not directly speaking about Tanya in this chapter, but just to understand the background or the source of what's going on here. So in order to understand that, we're going to understand that we're going to discuss the difference between Yaakov and Esav. What is Yaakov? Yaakov is the good guy. What is Esav? Esav is the Vildachaya. Yaakov is the mensch. Yaakov has calm energy. And Esav has a lot of energy, completely unhealthy energy. Unfocused with no direction. Yes, that is Esav. So it says that Hashem created worlds and destroyed them. So Hashem, only human beings can have trial and error. It's not what could you imagine? Hashem draws a blueprint and then he crumples it up and puts it in the garbage can? Or Hashem created a world and then he sent a laser beam to go to blow it up? What happened? Hashem created two realities. There's a sustainable reality and there's an unsustainable reality. What makes something not sustainable?
Chaotic.
What makes something chaotic? What makes something not have order? One of two things. Either it has too little resources, like a desert with no water, then you're chaos, it's dangerous. Or if there's too much resources. For example, if you buy a house in a place where there's a lot of flooding, or there's a lot of hurricanes, too much water is not good either. So that is unsustainable. If you have too much resources or too little resources, it's unsustainable. We have something called a R and a Keli. R is light or energy. A Keli is a vessel or a structure. When the light, when the energy fits into the structure, fits into the vessel, that is a healthy, wonderful Yaakov relationship. That's a situation that is sustainable. But if you have too much energy and the structure, the keli can't hold it, then you can't handle it. Now it depends. If you have, how electricity works in America and in Israel is different. The voltage. If you have a 220, if you have a mixer, anything, a washing machine, I don't know, that's running on 220 volts, and then you want to plug it into 110 volts, it's not going to work. The R doesn't match the keli. You can't. You have to get the right energy for the right. You have to have the right amount of energy for the vessel. Otherwise, it's not going to work. It will blow up. So if it's a battery, If you're going to put you have a chandelier and you put you put a bulb that's way too, if you have a bulb and you put a surge of energy that's too much, then the worst that's going to happen is the bulb will blow up or whatever, but it won't hurt too much. It won't hurt that much. But if you have lightning and lightning strikes, now lightning is a ton of energy. And if it strikes something, then you have energy flying everywhere that no one could control. And that could be extremely dangerous. Okay. And what happens is when you have too much energy and a keli that can't contain it, what happens? Sparks go flying everywhere. And the higher the sparks are, the higher the sparks that originate from the highest source end up falling to the lowest places. And that is Esav's story. Yaakov we say tikkun olam. So there's a world, this world is a sustainable world where everything is perfect, the amount of sunshine and the amount of the air, everything is perfect so we can live on this planet. There's no other planet where humans can live properly, right? So this world is a sustainable world, and it's called a world of tikkun. But Hashem, before this world, Hashem created worlds and destroyed them. Not that he created a world and said, oh, this is not a good world and we'll throw it in the garbage can. But he created worlds where there was tremendous energy and the energy could not be contained. And from what happened was those worlds platzed, whatever that means. And there were sparks from these worlds of tayu, worlds of chaos, worlds that are not sustainable, and sparks went flying everywhere and came down even into this world. So chaos comes from an unsustainable world, a power, a potential that was amazing, but ended up falling into an Esav. So Esav represents tons of potential, tons of power, but it's not channeled, it's not harnessed, it's not utilized in a proper way. Now you have these solar panels, right? What are they doing? They're taking, I don't know how they work exactly, but they're using the sun's energy, channeling the sun's energy to be able to use for a greater purpose. So
of course, you're using the word harness. A horse that's not harnessed can't accomplish anything.
right. And it could even, or a bull that's not harnessed could do crazy damage. A bull in a china shop, right?
Yeah.
So we said that story with the bull, with the lollipop,
Right.
So Sitra Achra, what is the nature of Sitra Achra? We said Kalipa gets its energy from Sitra Achra. Where does Sitra Achra get its energy from? What is the makeup of its energy?
It's not from the world of Torah.
It's from Tayu.
And
By
that's
nature,
tradition.
yeah.
Has
The nature of Sitra Achra is the world of Tayu.
So it means that there's a good reason for Sitra Achra. Hashem created Sitra Achra as part of his purpose for this world.
Hashem created those worlds, and it wasn't a mistake.
Right, exactly.
It's two different realities. There's a reality of Tayu, there's a reality of Tikkun. When after learning this chapter, you think to yourself, every single morning, you're literally going to battle. It's not a joke. It's not just like, oh, it's a nice world and sometimes there's tragedies. I'm saying it is a beautiful world. It is a beautiful world. And there's so much amazing potential here, but we're contending with it's a real battle. It's a real battle. You're dealing with Sitra Achra, Klipa, and where does this Klipa and Sitra Achra coming from? Originally, the original light was so strong, the origin of Esav is even greater than the origin of Yaakov. And this is why Yitzchak wanted to bench Esav, because Esav came from a higher source than Yaakov. So originally it was beautiful light, but it was lightening with nothing to hold it. And when you have extreme energy, when you have too much resources with nothing to hold it, then you just have chaos. You just have a balagan. And that's why this world is just chaos. Because it's getting its chayis from the world of Tayu.
ADHD to the max.
Yes, 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 yes. Exactly. And that's why klipa is so toxic, because when you have too much, when you spoil your children, it's when the kids have too much stuff and too much whatever, too much candy. You could say, oh, candy, it's so sweet. But too much of it, you're landing by the dentist. It's very, very toxic. It ends up being very, very bad. Too much of something is not good.
I better wear the candy when you're making me feel guilty.
I. But I'm saying but when things are harnessed and when things are, it's okay if it's one candy once a week or whatever, once in 6 months, I don't know. But I'm saying when things are harnessed, when things are used properly, when energy is channeled properly, then it's an amazing thing. But when you just have meshuga emotions with nothing to nothing to do with it, you end up in a very difficult situation. So unfortunately, last Thursday after I came back from the class, my husband called me and he's like, I have terrible news. I was like, oh my gosh. Anyway, a doctor from our Chabad house that we knew this family for like 20 years, 54 years old, an amazing doctor, a surgeon. He would go to third world countries and he would volunteer to go to third world countries to help people that needed. He went to Israel after October 7th. He went twice. He went to volunteer at the burn unit in the biggest hospital in Israel. And he saw that they had some kind of laser machine that helps with prosthetics, and it wasn't working properly. Went back to America, fundraised a Michigan amount of money, but he purchased 2 laser machines and went back to Israel and brought it to the hospital. Amazing guy. And he was on the way to the hospital to do surgery, and he was in a Tesla, and he had a heart attack. The Tesla, once you if your foot's not on the gas, I guess the Tesla just realizes it and just moved the car to the side. The car just moved to the side of the road. There was no accident, but he died at 50, passed away at 54. This was Thursday. The Levaya wasn't until Monday. And then on Monday, after we came back from the Levaya, there was another crazy tragedy. A Shliach, Rabbi Levi Volosov from Manalapan area. He was with his kids skiing on vacation, whatever, the yeshiva week, and he had a cardiac arrest. And I was at the shiva yesterday. There's so much. Oh, and Motzei Shabbos, I went with my husband to Margate. This family had already moved to Margate, which is an hour south, when they were living Pasha in the Frum area, and then they sold their house. They bought a small house in Tom's River, but their main place was in Margate. And I hadn't seen the girls like 5 years. They have 2 daughters, but they were in college and COVID, and they moved, and they didn't know I was coming. They were expecting my husband, they weren't expecting me. Ran over to me, hugging me. The house was full of people. It was like a shiva, like before the shiva. He Thursday, Friday, Shabbos, Sunday, Monday, not till Monday was the funeral. The house was full of people. Rachel, the wife, she came on me just sobbing from like a screaming from Etzem Hanefesh, I don't know where. And the 2 girls, they came running and they were hugging me, and we sat down for 2 hours. And then a house full of people, and they're conservative and they're traditional and they're wonderful people, and they left all their guests and they just sat with us for 2 hours. They were like hanging on to any And my husband, before I went in there, he's like, Hashem Sfasai Tiftach. I have no idea what I'm going to say. It was very, very difficult. So you see tremendous, tremendous pain, tremendous pain. And the funeral was on Monday. 400 people came to this funeral. There were speeches and speeches, 6 speeches. Each speech was 2 people come together, husband and wife, or the two, they like each one says a part, whatever it was. A heart gut wrenching. I can't even tell you. And this grown man, it's like I knew Jared for 32 years. Did residency together, and he's crying. And he says, besides my wife, I don't think there's anyone else in this entire world that I could just speak to about anything. It was geferlach. Anyway, then come to then it should take 15 minutes to go from the conservative temple, which my husband had to get permission to go there, had to co-officiate with a conservative rabbi because there was no other way, and there's no other place to hold 400 people like this. Anyway, Meshuggah, to get to the cemetery is 15-minute drive. It took an hour. So many cars to the funeral procession with police from township to township blocking the roads for all the cars to go. It was, anyway, all these people, conservative Jews, standing all around in the cemetery, and my husband with his garb, with his black Adam jacket, making sure that everything's kosher according to halacha, and saying Kaddish word for word so that they could repeat after him. Anyway, the scene, it's just. But what I'm saying is that you have tons and tons of raw emotion. It was Meshuggah. It was Meshuggah. They were all before they even came into the room. They're all passing around medicine for everyone just to take medicine to you didn't take pills, you must take pills to calm down. And they're telling each other, breathe. They couldn't even breathe. They couldn't breathe. Anyway, so you're talking about tremendous, tremendous pain from, like, you can't even imagine. And I texted Rachel on, I don't know, on Sunday. I said, Rachel, when my husband, can I bring Shabbos candles, like these packages of Shabbos candles, so that people could light Shabbos candles in Jared's, for Jared's neshama? And she said yes. I was in New York on Sunday for a bas mitzvah. My sister-in-law, my sister-in-law, I gave her a big hug, wish her mazdav. She's dancing and she's crying. Her father is very, very sick in the hospital. And there's a bas mitzvah. The emotions are flying. And I told my mother everything. My mother, all the girls, they packed 100 beautiful, beautiful neshek. Neshek is Ner Shabbos Kodesh. It's a beautiful, colorful flower package with 2 tea lights and like a little, like a very, very cute colored, like all the instructions for the brachas, whatever it is. And I ordered on Amazon, overnighted a beautiful a beautiful basket that fit in perfectly. And I couldn't give it. First of all, I didn't have the basket. Oh, so for the day of the funeral, I wanted to give it to Rachel then, but I had all the neshek was left in the van, in the big van that went to Cheder. I was like, this is crazy. I don't know, I have the neshek. But the following day, my husband went for Shiva, and I ordered this beautiful basket on Amazon. The basket came. It was 2 baskets that came together. We put the neshek in. It fit perfectly. My husband took it to the Shiva, and he spoke, and he said that, when something like this happens, everyone has to take a lesson and ask themselves, what are they doing in their relationship with Hashem? He encouraged everyone to take neshek. Fine. Then yesterday, I drove with Kara, who comes to the class by Bela's house. Her daughters were bat mitzvah by the Volosovs. Now she lives in this area, so she comes to our classes here. And Chani, do you want to go with me? I said, okay. We went to the Shiva together, and we were talking. Kara, her girls are in college. And after October 7th, she started a group for mothers against anti-Semitism. They call themselves Maccabees on the Ground. And she started this Maccabees on the Ground, this thing. She has 30 colleges on her phone, 30 WhatsApp groups, of mothers from where their kids go to these colleges. And what do? They make rallies. They go with megaphones and they go with stickers. And any sticker that anything, a free Palestine, they stick another sticker on top of it. This is what they're doing. I said, and she's telling me that she feels bad because there's someone else that's trying like to take more leadership and kind of, she feels like she's getting a little bit pushed out. And what should she do? I said, Kara, I said, and here also, so much energy, so much pain, so much, and they Pasha don't know what to do with it. I said, Kara, you don't understand. This lady wants to be in charge. Let her be in charge, no problem. But you have such power that no one else has. You're in touch with mothers from 30 different colleges. Imagine if at these rallies they would give out nashek. Let the mothers light Shabbos candles. I said, Maccabees is me. I looked it up. Is mi kamecha be'elam Hashem, right? Which was said by the Yidden by Kriyas Yamsuf. Who is like you from all the other powers? Hashem. It's all about Hashem. Maccabees is all about Hashem, acknowledging Hashem, and there's no Hashem with screaming on megaphones. I said the way to fight darkness is not with a stick. You're going to put a Israel flag sticker on their Free Palestine, and tomorrow they'll put a Free Palestine sticker on top of your Israeli flag. What did you accomplish? I said, I said, and I went to my house and I had a second basket. I filled it up with nashek. And I gave it to her. She was so grateful. She said, I'm going to take a picture of this. I'm going to post it. You tell me what I wrote a whole poem. I didn't end up writing my PLS poem yet this week. I wrote a whole poem about Maccabees and light and what are they fighting against? They want they want a piece of land. They're fighting against this. They're fighting against the neshama. They're fighting against the godly spark. That's what's making them fight us. It's not about a piece of land. So anyway, now Kara has a beautiful basket with neshek. I fill that up. Then I come back from the shiva, and I said to myself, my best friend from high school, it's her Levi Volsav. She's Levi's sister. I sent her a voice message. I said, the people that are coming to pay shiva call, a lot of them are not from, because they're from that community. And I said, do you want me to send, my husband's going to shiva today, to bring a basket of neshek? She was so grateful. Last night, I ordered the baskets, overnighted from 4 to 8 a.m. It was at my door at 8 a.m. I filled up a third basket of neshek, and I gave it to my husband to bring to the shiva house. Yeah. That's our ammunition. And I ended the poem. That way. I have to just end this poem. Anyway, the point is, you have grief from here till the moon and back. I don't know. The grief is not. You can't imagine this grief, whether it be by the coffins, whether it be by the vols, all over the place. And Yiddishkeit teaches us that yes, we have grief, but we live a paradox. That means we have grief, but yet we take the grief and we channel it. We channel it to somehow from this situation to bring light. If not for Jared Kaufman, there would not be. Do you see what's happening? And I'm one person. That's what it means, channeling energy into making it tikkun rather than tayu. When instead of people just screaming their guts out with nothing to do with it. And Carol was so grateful. She's like, these people, they want to do something. They're dying to do something. What could they do? What can we do to get rid of anti-Semitism? And they don't have direction. They don't have direction. And we say, listen, Bubala, listen, light Shabbos candles, do a mitzvah. That's what's going to do it. They're so grateful to you. So that's what it means. That this world is a place of pashut grief, an emotion that cannot be contained. And somehow, we're taking the grief and making a tikkun out of it. The world, they say tikkun olam, but no one knows what that means. It means to take the energy, the meshugana energy, and somehow harness it. When my best friend Rachi passed away, she was 26, and she was sick. She was in a coma for 9 weeks, and then she passed away. So these kids, Hannah Kaufman, Victoria Kaufman, whose father died, his father passed away, they were at that first scrapbooking club. We scrapbooked, it was a Jewish scrapbooking club. We scrapbooked the life cycle events of Jewish life cycle events. And the first scrapbooking page, my friend, that we scheduled this class, and that was the day that my friend actually passed away. And at 5, I came back from the Levaya, and 5 minutes later, we had the class. I came home at 3:55, 4 o'clock, the kids walked in. I didn't even tell them what happened. And that scrapbooking page was a road. And then there was birth and an upshenish and a bar mitzvah and a bas mitzvah and teenage years and marriage and parents and grandparents. And then there was a yahrzeit candle. And then the road continued. And I said, this was 16 years ago. I said, girls, do you remember that scrapbook page? And they said, yes, because this girl, Hannah, she's 21. She says, what does Judaism say about afterlife? And so he said, yes, the neshama lives on forever. And my husband said, he said a number of stories. It was all Hashem's Sfasei Tiftach, whatever Hashem put in his mouth. He said the Frierdiker Rebbe, the previous Chabad Rebbe, he was in prison for his counter-revolutionary activities. And they wanted him to say that he's guilty of who knows what. And he said, no, I'm not going to admit to crimes that I didn't do. All I'm doing is spreading Yiddishkeit. And they said, oh, we have a toy that can make you talk. They pulled out a revolver. We have a toy that makes people talk. So he said to them, he said, this toy works for people that have two gods in one world. A person that has one God in two worlds, this toy is not going to do anything. He wasn't afraid. So we're trying to tell her that there's another that there's a world after this world. And then this, I don't know why, touched my heart. I don't know why. My husband said, there was a boy, there was a school, and they had there's a music school or a school where they had music, they taught music, and there's going to be a big competition. And everyone was practicing and everything. And there was one boy that didn't show up for the practices at the end of the, and it came the day of the competition, and they weren't even going to let him play. But then they're like, okay, we'll let him play. And he played like he never played before. The teacher came running up to him after and said, what happened? You never ever played like this. How are you able to play like this? You missed the practices. He said, I'll tell you. He said, my father passed away, and that's why. And that's why I wasn't here. At the end, my father was deaf, and he was never able to hear me play. Now he could hear me play. And the girls heard that. They started sobbing all over again. And Rachel turns to her girls and she says, now Daddy can see everything. But as I'm saying, you have such raw emotion to be able to channel it to tikkun somehow, despite the crazy pain, to be able to harness some of it. And that's what I did with my friend. My friend was so sick. I had so much emotion. I didn't know what to do with it. What did I do with it? I took it. I took that upsetness, that anger, and I put it into a scrapbooking club. That's what it means to take the emotion that you don't know what to do with. You're going out of your kalim, literally, and to harness it somehow. And that Jewish scrapbooking club made more. We scrapbooked for many more years after that, and it was all It was planting seeds. It was planting seeds, so that when it came to this most devastating situation, that they were able to turn to Chabad, because throughout all the years, if it was Chabad or the conservative always came first. But then when you face the truth, and so much so that Victoria has a boyfriend whose father is Jewish. And he's hugging my husband, and he says, please, after this calms down, please tell me how I could convert the way that Jared would want. So now there's a new, if everything was good, if everything is good, then conservative conversion, whatever. But all of a sudden, now there's even a more. He said the only thing I wish that I could have asked Jared for her hand in marriage. But now it's not just, now it's even more crucial to do the right thing. But again, it's taking that energy and if he has Mirza Hashem, to have a kosher, a halachic conversion, could say, what a terrible thing, what a terrible tragedy. But if that would result in this boy having a halachic conversion before marrying his daughter, then that is taking emotion, that is taking raw, tayu emotion and making it into tikkun. It doesn't take away the pain, but it channels it.
What Yitzchak does is that it makes the world not so senseless. And that takes away some of the pain also. The senselessness drives us to insanity.
Yeah. 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 Okay, let's see where I am. So every single thing, go back to what we were saying, every single thing, the wicked people and everything that exists that it goes against Hashem, it all, even something that's completely toxic, it all has to have a godly spark. But the question is that godly spark manifested in a tikkun way? Is it in a tikkun way, or and tikkun way means where it's useful and accessible and likely to achieve an objective. But if it's not, if that godly spark is coming from a place of taihu, where there was too much light that went sour, then that translates into things that are forbidden for us to do. Anything that's usser, which is a 365 mitzvahs loisase, that we have to, things that we have to stay away from, and anything, all of that, if we do it, you see, if an animal is treif or not, that's not something that we could choose. But every thought, speech, and action, every not good thought or not kosher thought, not kosher speech, not kosher action that we do, where is it getting its highest from? From tayu. And what we're doing with our choices, if we do the wrong thing, is we're actually creating more klipa. We're creating more obstruction, more things in the way of our relationship with Hashem.
We're trapping more of the divine spark.
Yes, we're trapping. Yes, that the divine spark is swallowed up by the negative forces, and that's why. Why should I stay away from Avera? Not because I'm afraid of Gehenna, but because I don't want to create or give more chayis to klipa. So it's a little bit of a different. It's a different.
You're dragging the divine spark into.
Yes, you're dragging the divine spark into. Yes. Okay, so I see that we completely went over time. So I'm going to try to hurry up in 60 seconds and.
What?
Remind that she went.
Okay, so basically the end of this parak speaks about there's two types of klipa. There's neutral klipa, let's say, and gimel klipas satmeas, which are completely bad. 3 impure klipas, which are the gimel klipas satmeas legamri. They are completely bad. How could something be completely bad if it came originally from holiness? It means that the spark of holiness became completely overwhelmed by klipa and no longer speaks like a spark of holiness. Like that soup that became treif and now can make something else treif. The klipa swallowed up the kedusha. It didn't disappear. The kedusha is still there, but it's completely overwhelmed and it's in a maximum security prison, and you cannot access it. And unless you came in contact, unless it was something by accident, unless it was a Baal Tshuva before he knew, and then there's extra, there's extra crazy circumstances that would be able to release such a godly spark, but usually it's not the case, and therefore you have to stay away from Gimel Klippos HaTmeis, because a Jew can't free those sparks until Mashiach comes. So,
I think
yeah.
another we could release the divine spark, but these three.
We cannot, right? So examples is Arla or Kilayim. Like you can't eat for the first 3 years when you plant a tree in Israel, you can't eat from the fruit. Those kind of things are go into the category of Gimel Klippos HaTmeis. It's things that are completely usher. Why is it usher? Why is it forbidden? Not because Hashem wants to give us a hard time, but it's forbidden because there is no value in the Jewish person coming in contact with it, because the Jew cannot release that kind of spark until Mashiach comes. Okay. So basically, we want to behave in a holy, proper way, so that we should not be creating barriers between us and Hashem. Okay, we'll stop here. It's not an easy, I'm saying it's not an easy class to talk about klipa. Next week we're going to talk about more klipa. We're going to talk about klipas nega, which could be elevated. But we have to understand, what we're up against, and what we're up against is very, very difficult. But yet to try to take the tayu, we see where it's coming from, and to try to harness it somehow, and to
Yes, the Rebbe says, "Ikar v'lachem." It's easy.
What it means is that to serve Hashem is accessible for every Jew.
Right.
And we still need to know, we still need to get the tools. Yeah, now we're still getting to know the enemy.
Right.
We need the tools for how to change this world of wild energy into a home for Hashem.
It's a process.
Yes, it's a 2,000-year process.
Yes.
So Esav says, I'm not interested in listening to you. But after 2,000 years, one day Esav wakes up and says, why is there so much chaos here?
Right.
And Yaakov's like, this is what I was teaching you for the past 2,000 years, and slowly, drip by drip, we teach Esav.
See it happen.
Yeah, we see it happening.
The president of the United States could say Hashem's name.
Right.
We know that we're on the way.
Yeah. So it's slow and steady work. Yaakov is slow and steady to do things in an orderly fashion, in a way that ark could fit into the keli. And for 2,000 years, slowly, until we can make a dent.
Happy to be living in this time.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us. Okay. Yeah. I think your mother's on Zoom.
Oh, she is?
Yeah.
Bye, Brooklyn.
Okay. Sorry for going over time.